Presented by Memphis Shades, the clear choice for custom windshields and fairings for your motorcycle. And Wild Ass Seats, stay in the saddle longer and in total comfort no matter your butt or budget.
So, Dave, you talked a little bit about getting caught in the worst storm that you've ever been in. And when I was on my motorcycle trip in Colorado this weekend, we had two very distinct things that stuck out to us. The first one is on our way down there in Wyoming, we saw the storm rolling in. And obviously, if you've ever traveled in Wyoming, there's nothing out there. And we had just put our rain gear on because we knew we were riding into a storm. And I was riding a little bit ahead of Bob and Nick, and all I heard was one of those guys just cuss, wildly. And apparently there was a giant.
This story is brought to you by Long Drink.
What was that? It was the thing from the Addams Family.
Addams Family thing hand just brought in the long drink.
Well, he does look like Lurch.
Yeah, he does.
And so it was lightning, like 200 yards off the side of the road that hit, and it was crazy. I mean,
wow.
Bob and Nick were both like, "Holy shit!" I mean, just blown away by how close the lightning was to us. But
clap was instant.
Yeah, dude,
instant clap.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. But that wasn't the scariest, dare I say, highlight of the trip that we had. So it was our first day of riding. We had mapped out this route to go through the mountains. And so to get the route that we wanted, we had to pick towns as stops, like when you map it on Google Maps or Apple Maps as destinations. And we just picked these spots on the map that we saw to make sure that it mapped the route that we wanted to take. Well, when we, not knowing whether these were actual towns or not, they were towns listed on the map. So as we're getting up there, some of these were not towns that were traversable by motorcycle. Like one of them was literally built in like this canyon. And so the only way to get to the town was to go down this 30-degree steep dirt road, decline to get down to this town. And I was like, we're not going down there. I'm like, we'll never get out of that. I'm like, no fucking way. So we decide we're just going to pull over on one of the pull-offs, because up in the mountains, there's all kinds of little scenic pull-offs. So there was a pull-off, Dave, not a pull-out. So there was a little spot where we could pull off, and we pulled off at the side of the road, and there was a sign and some other stuff. And so we all get off and we're stretching, and Nick has a cigarette, and Bob sees, it's like he sees a bunny and he scurries off like a little squirrel. It was actually I think there was a sign for like a creek or something that he saw. So he went over there, and of course I had to pee because I pee every time we stop our bikes. So I kind of go up this hill and go in about 10 yards into the woods and take a leak. And I'm standing there taking a leak, and I turn around, and about another probably 60 to 80 yards ahead of me is a old VW Bug. Literally up in the mountains for no fucking reason whatsoever.
Were there people in the Bug?
There were not. Yeah. Well, there were not. Okay. So I called the guys. I'm like, hey guys, you got to come up here. We got to check this out. I'm like, there's a VW Bug back here. So they come up the hill, and we start walking back into the woods. And we're walking back and walking back and walking back and walking back. And all of a sudden we get to this VW Bug, and it's actually perched up on rocks, like pointed up towards the air. Like, it doesn't make any sense how it got in that position.
Did it have like Ted Bundy personalized plates on it or some shit?
It was a Ted Bundy color, Dave. It was powder blue. I shit you not. So this was a little creepy. And then you could see where there was like a fire pit or a burn pit. Then there's another area where there was, I shit you not, a pile. And when I say pile, I'm not exaggerating, a pile of motorcycles. Various kinds, makes, models, pile, frames, one-off seats, tires, just a pile of them. I bet you there was 20 bikes in this pile. So it looks like it could have been a place where people were maybe stealing bikes and stripping them and throwing the rest of them in there, or just a place where they were just throwing junk, but it happened to all be motorcycles.
Or did you see like helmets and shit? Because it could be people are killing bikers and dumping their bikes there.
That's what somebody said, that maybe that was a mass murder spot for bikers. Okay. Serial killer biker spot. Right.
Wow. And
then there was like this clearing down there, but in the clearing there looked to be what was like maybe a wooden cage, like a dog fighting cage or something like that was down in this clearing.
You stumbled onto some fuckery,
What
dude.
in the fuck?
Okay, hold on. It gets worse. We did stumble onto some fuckery. So we're standing there. Nick gets a little bit sketched out. He's like, I'm going back. Bob looks at me and he's like, we're not supposed to be here.
No.
And I was like, you think? And he's like, no, dude. He goes, we are not supposed to be here. He goes, there's probably a trail cam or something on one of these trees, and someone's going to get a notification that we're up here, and they're going to come find us. And I was like, okay, maybe it's time to go. So we go walking back out of the woods. Bob goes, oh, look, there's a huge pile where you could see bear shit. And I was like, well, let's keep going. So we get down to the hill. We're supposed to get down. So we get down. We're just about ready to go down the hill to our bikes. And this all black, like rattle can painted pickup truck comes flying into the area that we're in with the windows tinted, all the windows, including the front window, because that's legal in Colorado.
Fuck?
And it had some sort of weird covering on the back. And it slides like Dukes of Hazzard slide to a stop, like right behind our bikes.
Wait a minute. You're in Colorado, not Wyoming?
We were in Colorado.
Where they
mountains
grow
of
pot?
Colorado. What's that?
Where they grow pot and shit out in the
Dude,
middle of
pot's
nowhere?
legal. So if we stumbled on somebody's grow place, it's legal. So we had to found some sort of like dog fighting ring or a meth lab or something was back there. So this truck just sits there staring at us. No one gets out. The truck just sits there. And Bob, so we're just kind of gathering over by our bikes, and Bob's like, see, there's a fucking trail cam up there somewhere. And they got a notification on their phone, and they saw us, and they were coming to see what we were doing. And I said to Bob, I go, do you think they're deciding right now whether or not we should be fucked with? I'm like, they're measuring us up right now. 3 scruffy looking bikers that are standing out there, and 2 what appeared to be, from what I could tell, 2 hippie-ish looking bearded white dudes. And I'm like, that's 3 on 2 and we're bikers. So I think that they're trying to decide if odds are in their favor. And
Nah,
I think,
dude, they were probably strapped.
I think when they noticed, that we weren't doing anything and we weren't sticking around, that then they took off right after that. But it was
Maybe they thought you were Bigfoot.
I don't know.
Kind of tall, man.
They could have, but it was a tense couple of moments. We didn't know what was coming next. Could have been a gunfight at OK Corral.
No, that would have been short.
Reminds me of that movie, No Country for Old Men.
Right?
We just watched that yesterday.
Well, by the location we found, it reminded me a little bit of Deliverance. So.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you had Nick with you.
He raises the ball koozie to his lips.
At least you had Nick with you, so you had some military experience. But of course, he was Air Force, so that wouldn't have done any good.
Oh, shots fired.
So yeah. So anyway, that was our slightly harrowing adventure in the mountains of Colorado, where our good friend of the podcast Tony is currently camping.
So what was your
safer.
takeaway from this experience, my friend? Did you learn anything out of that?
Yeah, I should make sure I'm always carrying.
Okay. Did you learn anything else over that?
No, I'm still going to explore unexplored areas on my motorcycle. It didn't. I learned nothing. Had they gotten out of the truck, I might have learned a little bit more. But
I learned a couple of things that they gotten out. Wow.
But I would say this. Bob and I both agreed that Colorado was beautiful, and we want and we're definitely planning to go back and ride again sometime, very likely next summer. We were a little bit shocked and overwhelmed by how beautiful Wyoming was, even in all of its desolation.
Really?
Yeah, even eastern Wyoming, which I'm told is pales in comparison to how beautiful western Wyoming is. Wyoming had this beauty that was very unique. I mean, there were times when you really did feel like there was nothing out there. Like if your bike broke down, you were likely going to die. I mean, just on a random Tuesday, there was these giant electric billboards on the side of the road that said, "This road will be closed tomorrow from 5 a.m. till 10 a.m. because of high winds exceeding 60 miles an hour."
Jeez.
And that was just a random Tuesday, not like a storm or anything, just high winds. So it truly is. I mean, it truly is the Wild West out there in some of those locations. I mean, you're talking about one of the largest states in the union by landmass and the least populated. So, I mean, but it had a beauty that was just so unique that I was really taken by it. Colorado, obviously, the mountains of Colorado are amazing, but Wyoming was really beautiful. I was shocked by it.
I'm looking forward to exploring Wyoming a little bit after FDBM this year.
Which that, ladies and gentlemen, is less than a month from the time this episode releases.
Yeah.
It's starting to get real.
Yeah, real. It's going to be from the time this episode comes out, it'll be 3 weeks. 3 weeks and 2 days before lots of us hit the road.
Yep.
Yeah. I leave in about 3 weeks, I think, to start making my way. I leave on the 12th.
Ryan, you should be more careful so you don't choke on your balls.
It's that long drip. That long drip.
That's this long drip I have here. It causes
need to have
severe drinking problems.
They need to have a long can.
A long skinny can attached to this koozie.
He was choking on the ball koozie.
Yeah. But
got teabagged.
Maybe.
Little strandy.
Ugh.
So Dustin, you guys had an event this weekend at Ted's. How did that go off?
Dude, it was hot as fuck.
It's been so
it hit
hot.
it hit the 90s here with a vengeance the last week or so. The event itself though went great. So all the Harley Davidson dealers were encouraged by HD to do they wanted us to do a racing themed event.
Okay.
For like King of the Baggers, but we kind of made it our own event by just calling it like Summer Bash. So we had live band and we had a bike show. We had girls washing bikes. We had like Law Tigers came out. We had some other vendors. Alicia from Peripheral Apparel came out and she judged a bike show. She put up a booth and we had food trucks and we had big deals on bikes going on. And it turned out really, really good. It was a lot of fucking work. But in the end, I felt good how the day went. I mean, I was up at 5:30 that morning to get to work by 7 to finish getting set up. I mean, it was a long day.
Let me ask you, Dustin.
Sun beaten, red, tired when I got home, but I ended up staying up till 10 o'clock at night. So
I don't know if you can talk about this, not divulge any secrets, but I've noticed this year that there appears to be more of a concerted effort by Harley to coordinate events like this across all the dealerships. I think this is the second or third one, because our dealers out here did the same thing that I've noticed. Is that a true assessment?
Yeah, we have a marketing calendar from HD with set dates for events, and there's certain things they want us to do, and then they send us giveaways, and they try to theme it. But of course, since we are a multi OEM dealership, sometimes we got to cater to all three, but we're still heavier on the Harley, but we do still like to include, the Honda and the Can-Am into the mix too somehow. So since this was a Harley event, like our bike show was totally Harley Davidson, we didn't do metric or anything like that, but yeah.
I went to Thunder Mountain Harley Davidson in Loveland, Colorado, where we were at, and I got a lesson on the Pan America from Pan America rider there, a salesman who rides one, and it was in that Alpine green, I'm sorry, but in person, that Alpine green did not suck on that Pan America.
I told you that color is gonna be dope.
So what? We haven't gotten one in that color yet. So is it also birch white?
Nope, it's just the Alpine green and black. And they turned the Harley emblem into a topographic map.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
You know what? If I had to pick right now, the one I would have purchased, I would have gotten that Alpine green. Without it, now they had another bike there that was Alpine green, and it made me want to shit my pants.
Right.
But on the Pan America, it made sense, and it was a really rich, really cool color for an adventure bike.
Well,
I really liked it a lot.
It's probably because on the Pan America, there's not a lot of that
Right.
color on that bike, right? I
Right.
mean, it's the problem I've seen with the Alpine green is when you put it on the bigger bikes, it just looks like shit.
Yeah,
It's just a
trike
horrible
doesn't
looking
look bad.
color.
The trike
Yeah,
doesn't
they
look
had
that
it.
bad.
I don't know if they had it on a trike. I think I saw it on a road glide. And I think the only way that if you would have stripped off a lot of the black parts and accent that Alpine green with that gold that's really popular right now, the anodized gold, I think it would look good like that. But as a general rule, I wasn't a fan when there was too much of that paint.
Yeah. It's just one
But
of those colors where, too much is just too much.
Less
Yeah,
is-
and it's
less is
also one
more.
of those colors that doesn't photograph well because in person it was a richer color than the photographs, which the photographs really don't do that color any justice at all.
Well, it's a different material on the Pan Am than you're going to have on the other bikes, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
it's probably, the finish probably looks a little different.
But I got a lesson on the Pan Am and spent some time sitting on one, and if we'd had more time I would have test rode it, but man.
Well, I tell you one thing I know for certain. I don't care what kind of lesson you got on that Pan Am from that person.
Yeah.
It would not compare to any lesson that you could get from Whit Mesa.
She's doing
the
some
Pan America.
She's doing some serious shit right now. It's such a big, tall bike. I think that's part of what I like about it. I think the other thing too, just spending as much time as we did in Colorado, I bet you the adventure bikes outnumbered the Harleys 5-1 out in the mountains of Colorado. I mean, they were everywhere of all kinds. We saw Pan Americas, we saw GSs, we saw, there was everything out there. A lot of what's the mix between a road bike and a dual sports? A lot of dual sports out there. I mean, it was and such a great place for it because so many of the scenic views that are pull-offs are really not conducive to motorcycles. There's either a bigger dip or there's a lot of gravel and dirt, and so you really have to pick and choose where you pull off at because some of them don't make sense. And then some of them, when we were at 10,276 feet, it was this giant cement pull-off on the side of a mountain, and it was like absolutely amazing. We made it to the snow line, and so if you haven't had an opportunity, anybody out there, ride the Rockies. I mean, I was blown away, and I want to go back, or I already want to go back. It's amazing.
Hey, Ryan, what were you using? Because I saw you posted something that animated your route. What were you using? Was that Relive or was that Rever or
Rever?
Or what? Rever?
That's just all that was you just go into Rever and you hit record my ride when you start riding, and it actually pauses when your bike stops and keeps on going, and it just recorded the route. So we recorded our 2 routes, and then you can go into Rever and just make it a movie and send it to you.
But it's only good for a single day, right? I mean, you can't do both. At least I'm using a Rever right now to plan this trip that I'm leaving for this weekend.
Oh, sure.
And it doesn't look like you can do a multi-day
no,
route
I don't
and have
think.
it all
I think you have to
recorded.
plan day to day. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I liked it for that. I don't use it for mapping because it's a little bit more difficult, I think, for mapping, but I didn't get into the nuts and bolts of it. The guys I ride with, Bob records his rides with it and he really likes it, and Nick does. And then I think Kenny still uses it because you can do weather overlays too.
Yeah.
But I haven't found any that are super accurate for weather overlays yet. So I think there's probably not a big enough market for it, but I really think a solid motorcycle app would be something that app developers could get into and make, because a solid motorcycle app that you can, predict your route. A buddy of mine sent me one not too long ago, an app that I was using for a little while, that was when you planned your route, it would tell you what, if you programmed in what time you were leaving and what time you were going to get there, it showed you the weather along your route. So what you could expect
On the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I told you guys about a few months ago. I use that all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't use that to plan. I use that
just to check the weather, right?
to check the weather. Yeah. Before I leave, like the night before, I'll pull it up to see what's the best time for me to leave.
Yeah. And we did that. I used it. I just signed up for it to get a free trial for a few days and used it on this trip. And it was fairly handy. And I think you can buy like a year subscription for $25. So if you were traveling as much as you do, Dave, it's probably worth the $25.
It's the only thing that because I don't pay for that. If you pay for it, you can actually get a further view. Like I think the free version, you can only look like 12 hours or something out, which is normally good enough for me.
Yep.
But no, that app I found it very accurate, and it's helped me quite a bit avoid
storms and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think it's official. My son officially has more miles on a motorcycle than Tony this year.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, my boy did 115 with me today.
Nice.
Yep.
115 miles with you today?
Yep.
Wow. That's amazing.
So
You're gonna be buying him a bike before you know it.
Oh God, I told him last week. I said, "Do you want to go down the river the next time you ride with Dad?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like, didn't hesitate, just automatic yes. So we talked about it yesterday. We went out and did some batting practice, and I was like, "You want to? Maybe we'll go for a ride tomorrow. I don't know. We'll just have to see." Because it was nice today, and he really wanted to go. So I said, "Okay, we'll go." So we had to be back at a certain time because the wife has something to do tonight. So yeah, we went. I think we made 3 stops. One to get gas, one to stop for a drink, and then one more gas stop just to stretch his legs and stuff. Because his butt was starting to hurt a little bit from the seat and all that stuff. But man, he loves it.
How long are you riding your sprints at before you break?
What's that?
Like how long are you going before you break with them on the bike? Like 45 minutes or?
Oh, well, the first one was, I needed to get gas if we were going to do this whole loop, and that was 20 minutes. And then from there, it was probably 40, 45. Then we stopped for probably 20 minutes, and then it was an hour home and stopped once about halfway through. Yep.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way to get them started. Those little 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off, but 115 for a day.
Yeah.
And another 2 years, you'll be able to double that, no problem.
Did you have to go through any of the stuff that some of our listeners have asked? Like practice slow rides first, or did you just sit still and do what he needed to from the start?
Yeah, we've done about 5 rides already, just like half hour or so rides. So he knows what to do, but I just had to educate him. I was like, "Buddy, we got some more twists and turns on this river road than you're used to." After the stop we made, because at first it's pretty straight and you just slightly turn while you're going by the bluffs. But no, he listened, and we hit those curbs, at 60. He was fine.
That's so cool.
Coolest thing that happened, though, was when we were going from Alton to Grafton. Bald eagle flew right over toward us about 40 feet above our head, locked eyes with us. I was like, that's the biggest dick energy right there. Because I'm not used to seeing bald eagles this time of year out there.
Sure.
But this one was big, and it was really cool. Yeah, I heard him yelling on the back of the bike. He goes, "Bald eagle!"
Nice.
It was pretty awesome.
It must be the season for getting people on the bike, man. I know I've had both my daughters and my wife on this year. And I don't know if I've taken my youngest out yet, but my oldest daughter and my wife out this year. And Bob had both of his boys and his wife on. His wife has never ridden with him, and she rode with him the other day. So She was a little bit terrified at first, but
yeah,
I think she settled down a little bit.
it's an awesome feeling. Riding with your kid.
David, can you get your wife on anytime soon?
After our experience in London, I'm kind of thinking no.
Oh man.
I don't know. And I did want to bring that up tonight because I think it was last month we were talking and Tony started talking about those Lime bikes, right? And we were all talking about it. I said I'd never been on one, didn't know if they were still a thing or whatever. But the last couple of weeks I've been in London. I went over for a work project, something I'd planned on doing to surprise some of my old team members since before I retired. And then my wife came over and my nieces and my sister and brother, and we spent some time together. But while I was there, when we were setting up for the event, I needed to get something from about 2 miles away from one of the Tesco's. And they had Lime bikes everywhere. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. So I hopped on, downloaded the app, got the stuff, and it was fun. I had a lot of fun. So we ended up after my wife got there, because I don't know, have you guys been to London before, any of you? Traffic in the city center is like horrible. I mean, you can spend an hour going 2.5 miles. It's horrible. So we were using the Lime bikes to get around. And, I was jumping on and, at night and going to meet, colleagues, and she and I were riding to get coffee and do all kinds of stuff. Having a great time until the day before our last day there, when she and I were riding on a fairly long ride through the city to go meet my family, and some asshole came on her right side and went left in front of her and knocked her off the bike. She
in
crashed.
a car?
No, he was on a bike. He's a fucking dick.
Oh,
and
wow.
He just went right in front of her, and she went in. The bike landed on her. She landed on a concrete barrier, and the bike landed on her. I didn't know, because there's a design flaw on those fucking Lime bikes. I was in front of her. She was following me. She didn't want to ride on the side of me because she needed to follow me because she's not used to driving or riding on the other side of the road.
Sure.
So I kept looking around. There's no mirrors on those fucking bikes. And I kept looking around, the whole week we're there riding. And on that particular time, I saw somebody behind me. I didn't realize it wasn't her. So I went a block and a half before I was going to turn. And then I turned fully around and saw she wasn't anywhere to be seen. So I jumped off the bike and started walking back. And fortunately, a couple of gentlemen saw the accident and went over to her and lifted the bike off. Those bikes are heavy because they got the motors and stuff in them. Lifted the bike off of her and got her up, and she kind of got herself together, and she was walking, the bike towards me when I, met her. But she said she'll still ride, if she's given the opportunity, but that's been a week, I think. I had to get her a cane. She's still hobbling around. They did x-rays on her knee on Friday, and nothing's broken, but it's going to take a while to recover. So
now you're saying Lime bike, Dave. Explain what those are.
Well, Lime they're the little
Lime bike. Okay.
Lime. Yeah.
Okay.
They're different brands, but Lime, which is owned by Uber.
Okay.
They're the bikes, and I used to see them all over the place like 3 or 4 years ago in U.S. cities. I don't see them so much here, but they're prevalent. They have like 4 different companies in London. They're prevalent all throughout the city, and you just go up with your app, your Uber app or whatever, and scan the QR code, and it unlocks the bike, and then you pay by the minute, or I was renting by the hour. And then you ride wherever you're going to ride, and then you park the bike, get off and scan it, or tell it you're done and take a picture and walk away. It's super cheap, especially in London. Much cheaper, much faster, much more convenient than taking an Uber or a taxi or something and sitting in traffic. But it's just a great way to get around like a city.
Sure.
And they're power assisted. So they're not full electric. You start to pedal and the motor kicks in, but you have to continue to pedal to.
So they're actually like full-size bicycles.
Yeah.
Okay, because the ones I saw in St. Louis, they're scooters. They're almost like a Razor scooter.
Well, they
Yeah.
have scooters too, and I'm not that stupid. So, you know,
By
they have
stupid, he
scooters-
means coordinated.
scooters everywhere. And there's no way in hell. I mean, I was riding that bike in London in rush hour traffic when it was raining, and I mean, it's I couldn't imagine doing that on a scooter. But it's funny because you have to really, as my wife found out, you have to watch other bikers more than you have to watch the cars, really, because people are so used to riding
Running you
there,
over.
and they're very aggressive. But yeah, it was just that was a lot of fun. I had a good time, and I'm glad that up until that point she enjoyed it, because I think as we travel now, we know we can. That's something that is okay. My wife has had her knee replaced, so we have to always worry about what activity we're going to do or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, we know that that's something that we can that we enjoy and we can do. It's a great way to see a city.
That's good.
So I've checked that off my bucket list. I've now
Nice.
Ridden a Lime bike.
ridden an e-bike through London in the rain.
So I was asked a question on an Instagram post that I thought would be an interesting thing just to discuss between the four of us, because it's not like I don't know if it's necessarily for a full podcast, but Decker_47 on Instagram asked me, he said, when you guys do you guys incorporate a budget for your motorcycles and trips / rides / upgrades? So I think what he means is when you go on a trip or when you've purchased a bike, or are you considering a budget when you're thinking about upgrades and what you're doing to that? Or do you're like, these are the 5 things I'm going to do and that's it? Or, this is what you do when you're on a trip. I can say, honestly, I haven't. What we try to do on our trips is we try to pay for any prepaid stuff up front. So whether we're doing a hotel, a VRBO, whatever it is, we pay for that stuff up front. And then we usually either split meals or depending on, the cost of it. But we kind of, because we've been doing it for a while, we already kind of know about what we're going to spend on food, about what we're going to spend on things like that. So this time we actually did something we'd never done before, and we got an Airbnb. So we went to the grocery store and bought groceries. And so we saved money on meals because we bought I think Bob bought an 18 pack of eggs and a dozen eggs. And then we bought hash browns. And then the first night we were there, we ordered from a barbecue place. So we had leftover ribs and chicken and whatever. And then one of the nights we just made hash with eggs and potatoes and all of the leftover meat that we had from the barbecue. So we kind of this time, and we saved money. The Airbnb was the same price as a hotel, but we had all that living space and a garage to put our motorcycles in for 3 days while we were there, which was awesome. Yeah. And we were in a neighborhood rather than, hotels are usually right by busy streets and stuff like that. So I can say that we have it down pretty well to kind of what our expenses are, and we try to pay for everything up front.
You didn't.
That way, when you're budgeting or when you're going on the trip, you're only paying for your meals and your gas.
You didn't run into Ed Gein while you were at that Airbnb?
No, this was a very nice, cozy, non-serial killer vibe Airbnb, Brittany.
Ryan, can you book the Airbnbs for us from now on?
There were not a lot of options in Waynesville.
Yeah, Airbnbs are hit and miss sometimes. Now, so just for clarity, because you started off talking about a wide variety of things there. Are we talking about just budgeting for a trip or budgeting for a bike?
He kind of included
purchase?
All of those things. I think he was thinking, I think he was saying whether his exact words are whether or not you guys incorporate a budget for your motorcycles and trips / rides / upgrades. So I think what he means is whether you go on a motorcycle trip, do you incorporate a budget? When you buy your motorcycle, do you think of a budget, or when you're doing upgrades, do you have a budget? Like, I'm only going to spend $1,000 on this bike after I've purchased it, or do you have a vision in mind? I think that's kind of where he was going with it.
Well, I'll say for trips, I don't really sit down and do a budget beforehand because I kind of know what it's going to cost by the number of days that I'm going to be on the road. I have with all the travel in the last couple of months, I have started doing things like pre-booking hotel rooms, which I've never done before.
Yeah, cheaper
ahead of time. I've already got hotel rooms, like, I'm going to Wyoming, after FDBM, I've already booked that hotel, and
right.
I'm doing the appearing up at the Baggers and Brews event next month, so I booked that ahead of time. But I try not to book a lot of stuff on a trip ahead of time because I may not get to that point, or I don't want to be in a position where something else comes up and I can't spend time focusing on what that is because I got to get to that hotel or whatever. So I kind of like the flexibility, but I don't know. I don't really do a budget ahead of time.
Sure.
On trips.
Well,
Dustin, what about you when you were working on your bike? Or when you've done mods to your bike, did you consider a budget? Did you were like, this is what I want to spend in it? Or are you more like, this is the vision I have for it, I want it to look like this, and I'm just going to figure out what that costs as I go?
No, everything I've really done has been spontaneous. I mean, of course, I've been sponsored some parts and stuff like that. Not many, just a few, like Memphis Shades. Obviously, they've given me a few fairings and windshields. Custom Dynamics, they gave me lights for front and back. But like most of everything else, I've paid for. It's just when I have the money for it, because life happens, and sometimes you can't plan for everything.
Did you have a vision in mind of what you wanted your bike to look like, or the mods you were going to do to it?
When I bought it, no.
Okay.
No. I was probably, when I bought it at the time, thinking I was going to be broke because I had another vehicle payment.
Okay.
So I did, when I planned to buy the bike, made sure it fit into a time of the month where I was going to get my bill, where it was going to make sense for my budget monthly.
Sure.
Because, with mortgage, electric bill, water bill, all these bills, you got to make sure it falls in place where you're not going to have a hiccup when you make a payment, you're not late and stuff like that, which I only got 2 more payments and my bike's paid off. So
nice.
yeah,
Brittany, how about you?
That'll be fun.
Okay, so first I want to go back to what you guys were saying about your budgeting for trips, because I think, in case the listeners don't understand, Ryan and Dave both have a lot of experience traveling. So when you guys say, like, hey, I already have an idea of what it's going to cost, that's why you don't have to spend time budgeting on it. So
It's
for
true.
like
She's not
younger,
wrong. Yep.
less experienced, or, if you've not done a lot of trips or whatever, that's something to just keep in mind,
I think you also
I
need to
think-
decide what you want your trip to look like, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Like, whether you're going to stay, because I've stayed in some straight up flea bag motels to save money. I know I'm only
Right.
going to be there for 8 or 10 hours. just
So
to
is
sleep.
Dave. Dave's got the fucking
Yeah,
show.
Dave, the red roof, the red roof porno in.
The Red Pecker Inn.
The red pecker in, yeah. So, I mean, I think you need to decide that ahead of time, because that drastically affects your budget. I mean, I have been on a trip and called my wife and said, book me a hotel in this town and make sure it's under $100. You know what I mean? Try to book a hotel right now for $100 and see where you're staying.
And it's tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be
it's
sketchy as
tough.
fuck. But, sometimes when I'm traveling with 4 other dudes and we can get a hotel for under $100, we're looking at $25 a person.
People are
and all you're going to
spooning.
do is sleep there.
Yeah.
It
who
doesn't
cares?
matter. You're only going to be there for 7 hours. You just want a place where your bike's not going to get stolen and there's a bed doesn't have bed bugs.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to think about that stuff. And, you can always do some research in advance, like you're saying, check and see what hotel prices run in different areas. And it's going to depend on you financially too, right? If you have a lot of savings, you don't necessarily, you know, you can take a hit if it costs more or whatever. But if you don't have that, then you probably should be saving up before you go on an expensive trip.
Oh yeah, you got to set money aside. You like say for FDVM, I'm making sure I set money aside for it
Yeah.
because
Right.
We've had
taking a week off and
expensive-
staying home and doing nothing, or taking a week off and going 1,000 miles.
It's
Right.
a lot different.
Totally.
Which
different.
one's going to cost more?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think every 100 miles you're going to spend $15 minimum for gas.
Right, for sure. Yeah, and then plus, like me and Jackie, we're going to be spending more because we're taking a car as well.
Yeah.
Right? And you're feeding 2 people and all of the things that come with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could eat on a budget on the road though.
For sure.
Yep.
For
What
sure.
were you going to say, Brittany?
I don't remember now. You guys derailed me a little bit, but
Sorry.
oh, I remember. So me personally, I have been trying to be a little bit more forward thinking about that stuff. So like if I know I want to do 2 trips in a year, then I'm trying to kind of save up in advance so that we don't take as much of a hit. I'm financially stable enough that if I want to go on a trip and it's expensive, I can make up for it over the course of like a few months or whatever it is. But yeah, it sucks when you take that big hit all at once. Going back to your bike question though, I think sometimes budgeting, like I budgeted to buy the bike. I knew I wasn't going to have enough to do a whole bunch of stuff to it right away in that same like year that I bought the bike. But I also
Well, yeah, because that goes with kind of like what I did. I'm sorry to interrupt you again.
No,
but,
it's okay.
But you don't know until you've had the bike for maybe 6 months
right.
if you're gonna have any extra money left over.
Well, and then it's like I kind of feel like
Some of us, anyway.
I think sometimes you go into the bike purchase and you might have a vague idea, but like it's my second bike. So like I knew I wanted the Sport Glide. I knew I was going to change, you're going to change certain things from the start, right? So I kind of planned for that. I planned for the down payment and then like whatever it is, your handlebars and some of that shit. But then aside from that, I feel like the rest of it kind of evolved for me, the other parts. You change a couple things. Like I bought the seat. I wasn't really planning on a seat, but as I started riding the Sport Glide, I realized that I hated the stock seat and I needed a different one. And then the way that the seating position changed, it causes you to be like, oh shit, now I'm going to want to change these things. And then it all kind of just comes together, I guess, like in the end. So I think it kind of depends on you and your bike, how much you go. Dave, your bike this year was, or not this year, but the last couple of years ago when you bought your new one, you knew exactly what you wanted. But that's like your, how many bikes have you had to where you got this vision?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is that it really, your experience, right,
Yeah.
plays a lot into this. Because you're right. I mean, when I bought my bike, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it, and I knew it was going to cost. But what I did was I didn't sit down and go, okay, well here put together a budget and then blah blah blah. I just figured out, okay, I need to prioritize this stuff. So what are the most impactful things? I did those before I took delivery, and then I said, this is what I want to accomplish over the course of the next year, right? And then through that year, it was just a matter of figuring out, okay, how am I going to source that? Am I going to try to get someone to donate? Am I going to pay for it? But it started from the fact that I knew what I wanted to do with the bike.
Yeah.
Before I ever got it.
And like you said, it's experience. So if it's your first bike, you probably don't have a fucking clue what you're going to do. Maybe you do. Some people might.
I will say there've been a lot of like, oh shit, this is cool along the way. Just this week, I just did I dropped a video on it today, the Memphis Shades Ghost handguards, which I didn't even know were a thing until I was up in Connecticut with my buddy HD Rider CT, and he had them on his. I'm like, motherfucker, I need to get those.
Yeah, I think if you have, I know that the vision of my bike evolved over time, but I think going into it right now, if I was going to buy any Harley Davidson, I know right off the bat, I would probably be doing something for wind protection unless it was a full fairing bike, but still probably adjusting the windshield. Probably different bars and very likely a different seat. I mean, minimum to get that rider triangle where you want it. I mean, we learned a lot on this trip about rider triangle because Nick bought a brand new 2024 Street Glide. Brand new. Right off the
Did he
line,
ride
zero
stock
miles.
for this
He rode it
trip?
to Colorado, and he had replaced. He'd done moved the mirrors. He had done some highway pegs and a couple of things. He did not get a stock seat yet, so he used his wild ass pad, and he did get an opportunity to replace the bars. However, no one's making wind protection for the 2024 Street Glide yet.
Right.
So he went with the stock street windshield, which on the new Street Glides is virtually worthless.
Yeah.
It does not offer wind protection hardly at all. And then when he put his bars on his bike, he adjusted his bars in the position that they looked the best, but were not the most comfortable. And so we actually adjusted them for him on the fly because Bob brings tools, I have tools, Nick has a smaller set of tools, but we actually readjusted his bars for him because he was in such a weird and uncomfortable riding position that when we got to Colorado, he was wrecked. He was a very sore rider for this uncomfortable position that he found himself in.
Well, and he's lucky those 24s, it's easy to adjust the handlebars, not like on the previous design.
Very absolutely true. You actually just take the little glove box thing out and you have access to 2 bolts that will loosen up your bars so you can adjust them on the top clamp. But the other thing too that we also realized very quickly was that riding through Wyoming, Colorado, South Dakota, and North Dakota this trip, we hit a lot of wind, and he was riding a Shoei helmet. Shoei helmets are great for noise, okay? But they are some of the heaviest helmets on the market in terms of weight. And you compare that to the Simpson that I roll with or the completely carbon Ruroc that Bob has, it's night and day. I mean, he passed his helmet to us so we could put it at the end of the table. And I said, Nick, I'm like, this is part of the reason why your back hurts. I'm like, your helmet weighs 14.5 pounds.
Mine's probably really heavy. I have a Shoei as well.
I said, I'm like, dude, you got to get a lighter helmet. Brittany, you need to get a Ruroc or something like that.
Does he have an
your
all-in-one?
neck and back problems? Seriously, you have the heaviest helmet they make.
I should look at like the Arise. I don't know if they're heavy.
The Arise are $4,000. Look at a
No,
Ruroc.
they're only about
want a
1,100.
Ruroc,
Only 1,100.
1,100. Sorry, Dave. 1,100.
Well, I've had the same helmet for like 4 fucking years, so.
Yeah.
Well, is Nick's helmet? Is it a one piece full face or is it flip up?
It's a one piece full face, and it's still heavy as fuck.
And it's still heavy as shit. Wow.
Yeah, it's a few years old. It's the RF 1400, I think, from like probably 3 years ago at least. It's a heavy helmet compared to how light the helmets have gotten in recent years. So it's way heavier than my Simpson and probably 3 times heavier than Bob's Ruroc.
I have a RFSR. I just Googled it. It says
I
it's
have
like
that one
3.5 pounds.
I didn't think it was that
Curious
heavy.
what the other ones are.
Brittany,
Which one do you have?
Brittany, you know the human head weighs 8 pounds, right?
Which one do you have, Ryan?
What's that? I have a Simpson Ghost Bandit.
Simpson.
Well, I will say you can't just go by weight either, right? I mean, I got into an argument with a guy on my channel over this because he was basically saying I was not telling the truth about the Rurocs, the weight. It's not just the weight, but it's how the weight's distributed across the helmet fit.
Absolutely.
It makes a huge difference. So maybe you get a helmet that weighs the exact same as the one you've got right now, but because of the way it's designed and the fit, it feels much lighter.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. How much is the Simpson weigh, Brittany? I'm sure you're looking it up right now.
They do not give a weight on their
Okay.
website.
Well, I can guarantee you it's less than the Shoei because we did a weight comparison.
Go throw it on. Do you have a scale at home? Go throw it on the scale.
No. Yeah,
Tell me
I
what
should,
it weighs.
I should figure it out. I don't know, but it's not. It doesn't weigh as much as the Shoei does that Nick was running. So
Yeah, I mean the Shoei's if you don't want to pay like $1 million like for the Arai, the Shoei's have been super comfortable. And the sound production is so good. So that's
they're
why I've
comfortable and
stuck with
quiet,
it.
but they're heavy as fuck. So I mean, if you have back problems or neck problems, think about it.
strengthen
No,
that
seriously,
neck.
I was
Do the
making a
neck
joke of it, but
tucks.
if the human head weighs on an average about 8 pounds, and you put a 3-pound helmet on it, you've added a third of the weight to your head. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if
no, I
you're not
get it.
keeping your head in a completely natural position, which you never are with a helmet, for every like 3 degrees that you tip your head forward, you increase the pressure on your spine by more than 30%. I don't know if you knew that, Brittany, but it's a lot. So by the time you take your giant melon and put it in a helmet like that,
I
now
have a small head, so it's
And
probably
with those
worse for
earrings.
me.
you're just
The
about
helmet
breaking.
probably weighs what my head does.
Yeah, I'm saying you're probably just about breaking your neck off. So
Yeah,
just
I don't notice
just a
it too
consideration.
much.
Just a
So-
consideration.
But if I have like the GoPro and stuff on it, it's noticeably like heavy. You know what I mean? Because
it's forward
it's
heavy.
pulling your face down, and it fucking.
How's that?
sucks.
Show that again one more time. How does it do that?
No, I'm not doing it again.
Well, the Ghost Bandit, right? I don't know if it's the Ghost Bandit you rock, but it's 3.5 pounds.
Yeah.
My Exo Covert full face, my Scorpion,
Yeah.
under 3 pounds, 2.9. I love
There
that
you go.
helmet.
Yeah. And I would agree with Dave. It's weight distribution because that would put my Simpson weighing about the same as Nick's helmet. But honestly, when you feel them, they don't feel the same. So there is a difference there is a weight distribution difference in helmets for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of budget, I got a couple of tips to share,
Yeah.
especially for people coming out to FDDM.
You got a couple of tits to share? What's that?
Well, I'm not going to share those, but I got
Oh,
a couple
okay.
of tips that I've just recently come across.
Is this one of them?
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk too and spit on that thing.
Oh my god!
Oh man, that's a
That girl went viral like that.
that's a good one. That's a good one. No, but there's something recently occurred over the last couple of weeks. You're on long trips and you're invariably going to be eating junk food,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? Have you guys heard about the price war, the little thing going on between like Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, and all those guys?
No, huh?
It just
No.
started. So McDonald's came out because sales are starting to get hit. People can't afford to pay $15 for a hamburger anymore.
Yeah, their Big Mac meals are there
Yeah,
were places
so-
that were marked up to $18.
And yeah, that was like one
What
place I
the
think
fuck?
in Connecticut, but
Yeah.
dynamic pricing, blah blah. Anyway, what they said was that they announced last month they're going to make a commitment to trying to put out more affordable stuff. So they announced they're doing a $5 meal,
Okay.
right? So you get your choice of one of 3 sandwiches.
Okay.
It comes with 4 chicken nugget fuckets or whatever they call them,
Okay.
the small fry, and
Chicken
then a small
buckets?
and then a small drink for $5.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
So
small.
they announced that. Burger King said, "Well, we're doing it too." I think Wendy's is doing something, and so everybody's jumping into this $5 meal thing,
Okay.
Subway should bring back the $5 foot long.
Yeah, they should.
or less. $3 foot long would be better. But anyway, so I
Any
just
kind of
actually
footlong
did
is good
that.
for some people.
I was out riding the other day, and I get a thumbs up, and saw and went into a Burger King, and it's like, small portions, but human
Yeah.
portions, not
Yeah.
typical American portions. It's what you should eat,
Right.
size wise, for $5. I mean, that alone, if you're talking about budgeting when you're
Yeah.
traveling, if you were just eating fast food before when you were riding
Yep.
on trips, you just cut your food in half.
Yep.
By doing that. The other thing for those coming out to FDBM, and Ryan, I don't know if you remember the name of this place, but when I travel, if I'm going to be somewhere for a few days, I always go to a grocery store and get produce and stuff that, doesn't throw my blood sugars off. Around from, as you get into Whitewood, leaving the Iron Horse Inn, you make a right, go down the main street, and there are 2 gas stations or convenience stores. The one on the left looks like a convenience store, but it's actually a grocery store.
It is. Yep.
So, if you're coming out to FDBM, you can save a little money on your budget by, when you get there, just running down to that grocery store and picking up stuff to bring back to the hotel.
Yep, for sure. The other thing that I've started doing too, and we did it on this trip, and this is personal preference. It depends on how bougie you are. This probably won't work for Tony, but one thing we often do when we travel is that, you don't want to get caught up eating something that's going to upset your stomach or anything like that. Very oftentimes we will have gas station hot dogs and water to keep yourself hydrated. And the gas station hot dogs are cheap. And you know what? They're consistently pretty much taste the same across the board in any gas station you go to. Just the regular old wiener hot dogs that are on the hot rollers. And you throw a little ketchup and mustard and some relish on that. And that's a lot of times when we travel, we don't actually stop to eat a meal. We'll eat a gas station hot dog and just eat one meal on our travel days. So we travel maybe 10, 12 hours on the bike. You're eating, maybe these little tiny snacks that are sustaining you on the ride, keeping your energy level up, that kind of stuff. And then you actually stop for a meal at the end of the day. That's another way to budget. Now, not everybody can do that. Some people have to monitor their blood sugars better. Some people have to eat more. Some people need better, longer breaks, whatever. But we've found that that's also a way that you can significantly save money and time. Time when you travel is a big thing because you can get to a point where it's detrimental to stop for too long, because then you're past the I've gotten rest and I get on the bike, and I've gotten rest and I don't want to get back on the bike. So that you have to weigh that very carefully. Usually what we try to do is make the stops at the beginning of the day as short as possible. Piss, gas, get on the bike and go. That way when your energy is up and you're beginning your trip, you're not nearly as likely to stay and stand around as long at a gas stop.
Yeah, and I know when we go out and leave from here to go to Whitewood, we're not booking our hotel until we know where we're going to actually be. Like, our goal is to get to Sioux Falls, and we've looked at the hotels, but we're not going to book until we're like 1 or 2 stops from there, knowing we're going to get there.
Sure.
Of course, we got a free room coming, so that's good.
Well, we're planning on meeting you guys down there that Thursday to all ride in together. So if that's still going to work, because I think there's going to be a bunch of people meeting in Sioux Falls, so we'll have to post it on Discord. We'll have to pick a gas station to meet everybody at.
Man, don't be asking me to go out and have a drink and shit, because I'm gonna be beat the fuck.
Yeah, we're going to meet you the next morning. When you roll in.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, whatever. I'm not gonna want to go out and party after doing 625.
Right.
After never doing 625 before in a day.
Right. No, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Talking about booking hotels, something else that this year I've started taking advantage of. I've never used it before, even though it's advertised all over the place. But that
KY?
That KY now. Astroglide.
Asshole glide? What's that?
Astroglide, asshole.
Made by the people of Haktua.
Yeah. That platform Trivago.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's legit.
Okay.
It's legit. I mean, I've used that quite a bit over the last few months to because like Dustin, I mean, I usually try to wait till the last minute till I know where I'm pretty sure I know where I'm going to stop that day before I book. But Trivago, actually, I've saved a lot of money on hotels just by using those guys.
Is that by not booking last minute or by booking ahead of time, or even if
well, either. I mean, typically now, I mean, I used to do like I'm a Marriott guy. I've been Marriott for decades, but they're not always they're hardly ever the cheapest. But sometimes you just don't want to stay at a Marriott, right? Or you can't. So I was using hotels.com before, but I've had some shitty experiences kind of with that. So I started using Trivago and finding out that, it really, it does what they say it does. It goes out
Compares.
and finds for the same room. I mean, I've used them to get pricing, and then I've looked on like a hotel's site or some other aggregate site, and Trivago comes up with better pricing.
I found if you use the website notelmotel.com, that will also get you the motels that rent by the hour.
Well, there you go. That's important.
Yeah. That's specific. Notel Motel.
Stay with strippers.com.
There you go.
Yep. Notel Motel. Book it.
They hawk 2 of those rooms.
Yeah, they do.
With the rubber sheets and the gerbils.
If that's what you're into.
Dude, we got another event tomorrow, dude. It's gonna be 97 here tomorrow.
Wow.
Plus humidity.
Wow.
I mean, it's bike night, but I mean, it's at 6 o'clock. It's still gonna be hot.
So oddly enough, our humidity is so low here. Like the dew point they were saying today is like 51. So the temperature actually felt cooler than what it was. It was in the 90s, but it felt like it was in the 80s. Just kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
Are you guys planning, Dustin, on doing this summer bash thing every year now? Is this like an annual thing you're thinking?
Well, it depends if, the motor company's doing another summer event on the schedule for dealerships, but I wouldn't see why not. The only thing I would have done different, and I could have, but I just felt there wasn't enough time, was get a dunk tank.
Ooh, yeah,
I called the rental company. They had it for me. They said they had 2 of them, but it was like 4 o'clock, and we closed at 6, and the event was the next day, and filling a 350-gallon tank was not in the cards.
Right. Yeah, you need a fire
next
department
time.
To come there and open up a fire.
Come dunk your favorite salesman.
Yeah. What about come dunk your favorite bike washer?
That could happen too. Any one of them probably would have volunteered. It was hot. They were probably just screaming to go wash just so that they could cool off in the water. They killed it for us though. We raised some money for Boys and Girls Club of Alton. I gotta count how much exactly we raised when I get into the office tomorrow, but it was
nice.
They killed it. They washed, God, I don't know how many bikes they washed. Several.
Nice.
Some of them even went. They got their bike washed and they took it over to the bike show and entered their bike. That's what we did.
You guys want to do some Discord questions before we?
Yeah, we haven't done those in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, we should. I'm gonna jump off quick, but I'll be right back.
I'm gonna jump past all the discussion going on. It's making it very difficult to view the questions here. And he just went out. This is a good one, I think. Actually, Ryan.
So Ryan leaves and we hear sirens.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Oh, that's you.
The timing.
That's the volunteer fire department down the street from me that screams by every now and then.
I gotcha.
So the first one is from where's my glasses? GB Mags. Christ. Yeah, I'm
the
getting
readers
to that point
come out,
now.
everybody.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's not readers. It's my lineless trifocals.
Okay.
GB Mags, when packing for a trip, what do you guys do for toiletries? I mean, do you use your regular shave kit, style bag, or you just throw your toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, and so on in loose with your clothes and wherever it fits?
Fuck, I don't shave on the road.
Yeah, but do you wash your ass?
Of course.
Hey, Ryan, we're doing this question from GB Mags about packing toiletries.
Oh,
right?
okay.
I don't know if you've seen the question, but real quick again, when packing for a trip, what do you guys do for toiletries? I mean, do you use your regular shave kit, style bag, or you just throw your toothbrush, toothpaste, and deodorant and so on in loose with your clothes and wherever it fits?
I guess I put everything in a bag.
Yep. Just stick it in a big Ziploc bag. I'll usually just whatever deodorant I have in the medicine chest is what goes with me. Same with the toothbrush and same with the toothpaste. I'll usually take a travel toothpaste.
Yeah, I actually have a toiletry bag now that I use for traveling. Now that I'm doing on-call nights and things like that. But I've been using it for motorcycle trips for about 2 years, and it's actually super handy. So I buy smaller containers for soaps, body washes, that kind of stuff, body spray, whatever you're going to use, medications, Aleve. I keep all that stuff in there. Toothbrush, all of the things you'd normally use. I actually use a separate kit that I use for traveling.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I've got a really, really nice kit that a client gave to me probably 15 years ago. And I've used that for, I don't care whether it's just normal business travel or on a bike. I mean, it always stays stocked with what I need.
Big recommendation, I would say, for motorcycle travel, whether you use it or not, but I would recommend any type of wet wipes or dude wipes. Have them with you because they are extraordinarily handy for whatever you might need them for. But that's a recommendation I would say for anybody to put in their motorcycle travel kit. They're especially handy, obviously, if you're going camping. But if you're going to do motorcycle travel, they're just a really good, quick cleanup thing if you need to, because you can use them on your face or wherever. They're just a really good, cleanup thing. But yeah, that's what I use as a separate kit.
I would second that. I mean, I carry crap. I can't remember the brand. It's Alcoa, whatever. I don't remember. I did a video on them at one point. But they're towel size.
Oh, okay.
And I keep a couple of those packs in my saddlebag all the time. Sometimes it's just, especially in the summer. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember last summer. God damn, man, it's 100-something degrees. And after hours of that, you just want to get off the bike and just like clean off. Mm-hmm. That's coming really handy.
After Saturday's event, I think I may invest in some more of that monkey butt powder because I was chafed after that event.
Hey, dude, that stuff works, bro.
Yeah. The other thing I would recommend to anybody too, and I don't know if you do this, and just a recommendation because I didn't do this on my last one, is after a long trip, bring your helmet inside. Don't leave it in your garage or somewhere. Bring it inside where the moisture level is leveled off and it's not super humid, because you want your helmet to dry out. And Tony taught me this: throw a dryer sheet in the inside of your helmet, because as that moisture is drying out in the inside of your helmet, that dryer sheet's going to draw that moisture out and actually makes the inside of your helmet smell really good. Takes that kind of wet dog smell out of the inside of your helmet.
That funk.
That's a good point.
Yeah, really, really, really handy tip. So.
And the monkey butt or happy nuts.
Yeah.
Dustin mentioned the monkey butt, but
Shit's
either that
real.
or happy nuts are good to go. Okay. Next question from Mike Coxalong. What?
You purposely stress the right syllables there.
The correct syllable.
I'm reading it the way it's spelled. What snacks or food / drink should I pack for long distance trips? That's a loaded question.
It's protein.
Everyone's different. I mean, you already talked about that.
Jerky all day long.
Yep, it's jerky. Protein. It just make sure you have protein. And I've actually moved away from any type of soda or anything like that. I try to drink water. And
water
if I do
Gatorade.
I will actually do an occasional tropical Red Bull just to give me, but I don't drink coffee when I'm on a trip either because I'm not trying to shit myself.
It's a marathon, not a race.
Coffee's a natural laxative, so
It is.
if you're not, I love my morning coffee, but I also love my morning shit, and so, but I don't love those two things on a motorcycle.
Yep.
So there you go.
I don't want to wear it.
That's right.
What about you, Brittany?
Like I said, I think it's person dependent. I don't know that I pack snacks. I eat Cliff Bars a lot. Like that's my go-to.
It's like
snack.
eating sawdust.
Jesus.
Cliff Bars? I
Hell
love Cliff
yeah.
Bars.
Or am I thinking of something else? I've
You're
eaten some
thinking
of
of something different. I mean, some protein bars are kind of weird tasting.
He's thinking about Cliff's Nuts.
Yeah.
Probably.
Think about these.
They are nutty bars, Dave.
I mean, I guess I always pack water, but that's not food either.
Those nutty bars. You'll spit some
Nutty.
sawdust.
What, a good and plenty or something?
Well, for me,
Baby Ruth.
My son was
Because I'm
asking me about good plenties today. I go, dude, you don't want those. Those is nasty.
Yeah, he doesn't want that.
Whoever makes those should be kicked in the nuts.
For me, because I'm diabetic, I'm very deliberate about what I take, especially on long trips, especially in the summer. So obviously, water is a must. I always start out with at least a liter of water in my saddlebag. But I take besides
Dick-shaped
like
foods.
protein bars. You know?
Dick-shaped food.
No, not dick-shaped foods.
It's the only thing you packs.
No,
Yeah, packed him dicks.
no, you didn't good.
Oh,
David is
God.
bag of dicks.
Nope, those are too salty.
Just
But I
those
do
chocolate
take
salty balls.
I do also take things like just packs of sugar in case I need to
What?
get my
Oh, 'cause you're
my
diabetic.
sugar up if I start to go low, which is very dangerous when you're riding a motorcycle.
Yes, it is.
I also take those Lifesavers wintergreen mints. You can get them in like big bags,
Yeah.
right? Just to have something like I'll stop, I'll get gas, I'll put a couple in my mouth just to keep the mouth moist, you know, from drying out, which can be a problem.
Oh,
I
you
know.
gotta give him that hawk tunes.
That's all you. But yeah, so that's I try not to drink coffee especially if it's a hot day because I don't want to dehydrate. Yeah, or foods that are going to make me shit, like Ryan said.
Exactly.
Like McDonald's. I will do the 2 McChickens. They're like BOGO right now.
There you go.
So we have another question here by Joe Leandike. This is an older question from beginning of the month. He says, he asked about gear we've talked about in the past, but he has said, do you have a certain packing order, like tools in the left saddlebag, rain gear in the top right? How do you separate your clean from your dirty as your days go on? Tips and tricks from the road, basically, from that kind of stuff. So I always say you should pack your rain gear so it's easily and quickly accessible. No matter where you decide to put it, you should be able to open up a bag and grab it and put it on, because we changed on our last road trip 3 times on the side of the road because we were riding into storms. So it should be easy to get to. And, so wherever that is for you, easy to get to for that. Your tools, I not so much, because you don't necessarily, if you have to unpack a couple things to get to your tools, that's okay, because you don't necessarily want to put them at the top and have it be a bad omen, right? So anything that you feel like you need immediately, do it that way. And on a long trip, I always pack 2 bags worth of clothes, and I'm switching from one bag to another. So as the trip goes on, like when we were at our Airbnb, I just kept out all my dirty clothes, and then by the time we got ready for the last 2 days, I had 1 bag of dirty clothes and 1 bag of clean clothes. So you just kind of rotate through as you go.
Yeah, I keep I have all my tools and stuff in my right saddlebag, and my tool roll actually fits in the channel of my extended saddlebag, so it slides right down in there and doesn't take up any extra space.
And you can put your clothes
That's
bag
nice.
still on top of it, right?
Yeah, so I've got
Yeah.
my gaiters, and then on top of that, I've got my little compression bag with my rain suit,
Sure.
and then keep my ball cap and cleaning supplies and stuff in that.
Right.
As far as the laundry, Joe, take a look. I just dropped 2 videos on the channel about the El Sandoval bag, and on the first one, I went over how I organize when I pack, and I use packing cubes, and I've used the same type of packing cubes for, oh my God, probably 10 years or so. They're made by a company called Action, and they have 2 sides. You can actually pack both sides of it. But what I typically do is I roll my clothes and I'll pack like all clean stuff on one side. And then as I use something, I'll re-roll what's dirty, and I'll put it on the other side of that compression sack. I'm a little anal when I travel. So I have a system for how I do this. But the nice thing about using this type of a setup is that you always pack every day. Everything is packed the same way. So you don't have to, like a lot of times you're probably putting stuff in like a laundry bag or whatever. Well, that thing starts growing, right, as you go through the trip, and then suddenly you can't pack the bag the same way because things don't fit. But with the system that I use, and you can look at it in the video, it's consistent, and I do that for every type of, whether it's a motorcycle trip, a business trip, or just a weekend. I always do the same thing.
So basically, he always rolls his panties.
I do roll my pants too. Yeah, the jeans. Yeah.
That's not what I said.
Isn't that what you said?
No. I said you always roll your panties.
They're always in a bunch.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear the other syllable there.
The syllable.
The syllable.
Well, I think that's it, right? I mean, that's pretty good for this podcast.
Yeah. Thank you for
Remind
your questions,
everybody
everybody. Remind everybody, Ryan, that how much does Discord cost?
It is fucking
Free.
Join it. Join
Hey,
it for free.
I do want to mention this because it's good timing, and I thought about this the other day. If you are attending FDBM and you are not on Discord, get on Discord, because we will be using that to communicate things during the event that we need to communicate, and we'll be using it to things leading up to the event. So get on Discord, join the Discord, learn about it, figure out how to use it. It's free, and it'll keep you updated in contact with everything we have going on.
Yeah, and we'll set up, when we get there, we'll set up a specific channel that'll probably be read only, just so we can communicate with everybody that's there at FDBM what's happening or what's about to happen or whatever. So you definitely want to join the Discord to stay up to date on the day by day out there, because I'm pretty sure shit's going to change throughout the day as things progress.
Be patient and be able to be willing to be flexible, because we might have to flex around weather or something else. You never know what happens. So,
yeah. Why did your light go out?
Mine?
Yeah.
No light
It
went
did
out.
get darker.
It got
It's
like
probably
super
just
dark,
the
bro.
window.
The sun there doesn't set. It just goes.
Yeah, less done.
It goes, fuck this.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. You look a little creepy right now, motherfucker.
It fell off the flat Earth, dude.
We need to see the thing reach its hand back through the screen again.
Yeah, raise your hands.
There you
go. There you go.
The port came back on.
Wow.
There's just asses everywhere.
Oh man.
All right. Well, I think that's it's about good for today, right?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. As a wise woman once said, Haktua. Spit on that thing. That's wifey material.